Welcome to Below the Line, where we talk about working in Hollywood from the crew perspective. My name is Skid. I'm a former assistant director and your host.
Quiet on the set.
Subject matter experts discussing the nominees in their category of expertise. That's the premise of Below the Line's 7th annual Oscar series, and this is episode 6. Listen to the podcast or watch us on YouTube. Either way, I'm glad you're with us. Today's category is Achievement in Production Design. We've got 3 returning guests. First, set decorator Regina Graves. Regina, your credits include Fallout, A Complete Unknown, and The Irishman, for which you received an Oscar nomination. Nice to see you again.
So happy to be here.
Next, production designer Bob Shaw. Bob, your credits include Boardwalk Empire, The Wolf of Wall Street, and The Irishman, the film for which both you and Regina were nominated. Welcome back to Below the Line.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And finally, joining us again is Leadman Kerry Weeks. Kerry, your credits include Leave the World Behind, Severance, and A House of Dynamite. Glad you're back this year.
Thanks, Skid. Glad to be here.
Let's talk about some movies. This year's nominees for production design are Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, and Sinners. We're going to discuss them in that order, and spoilers are possible, so consider this a warning. When I introduce each film, I'll also recognize the nominated team by name. Please accept my apologies in advance for any and all mispronunciations. My guests, of course, are also welcome to correct me. All right. We're going to, everybody laugh, but you guys might run into these guys at the Guild events. Let's jump right in. First up, Frankenstein. Production design by Tamara Deverell and set decoration by Shane View. Oh, right out the gate. Well, we've said
Shane View.
Thank you. Let's talk about Frankenstein.
I think what's interesting here is it's a story that's been told many times, and there are so many different versions of it. And I think in this case, the reason there's a nomination is that the visuals were a big part of taking a different approach to the movie. It was bigger, it was more operatic, it was more colorful. Everything about it was just, larger than life. And I think that had a lot to do with a remake of a movie that's such a standard story. Everything was over the top, and I think in a very good way. The size of the boat, the different look of Frankenstein himself, the remoteness of the castle, the size of the castle, and things that are kind of bold, like the underside of the castle with that sort of tiled, arched interior does not really generally go with the kind of castle that you see on the outside, but it somehow works because everything's just a big statement.
I have to agree with Bob. This was probably my favorite film to look at this year. I think the historical mixed with like the kind of fantasy of this Frankenstein, the colors and the grandness of everything just brought everything to life. I watched the designer and the decorator speak about this movie, and I couldn't believe how many builds they actually did. They built almost this entire movie. They built that entire ship in Canada. It was really funny. On the back lot, they said, and Frankenstein's that laboratory that they were in, and Frankenstein's apartment. There was so much to look at, and so much detail, and so much color, and it was just beautiful. It just brought the movie to life and gave a total, a whole backstory to it.
Particularly the laboratory had a whole different take on it. It wasn't the electrical zigzaggy things going up and down the tube. It was just very different, and I think it worked very, very well.
For some reason, I had a problem with this one. I was thinking about it, and I felt like it was if you had asked AI to design a Guillermo del Toro movie, this is what AI would have come up with. I don't know why, but I was disappointed in most of the grand pieces. I liked the smaller part. I liked Frankenstein's apartment. I liked the interiors. I liked the ship quite a bit. I thought that was amazing, and I was also impressed in finding out later that there was next to no green screen, that they built everything. But for some reason, I found the laboratory, the castle, the underground vault area. I don't know, it just kind of left me flat for some reason. And sometimes it's hard for me to determine if my feeling about the movie and the story is coloring my view of the production design. And that might have been the case in this. I've kind of struggled to stay with this story. I didn't care for the way it was told necessarily. So I guess I'm the outlier here. And I do have one very specific comment that and this is about the design of the monster. I love the idea that he was stitched together by all these different body parts, but when you looked at him, it was all the same. I think it might have been interesting if he had had like one hairy arm and one bare arm that was maybe a different skin tone, and if the stitching together of them actually reflected all the different body parts in a very hodgepodgey way, he would have been a lot less attractive than instead of this specimen, this, that he was. But it also would have really told the story of in that scene when Frankenstein was hacking through all the body parts of the pile of bodies, and he's getting a leg here and a head there and ears there, and I feel like that wasn't carried through in the design of the monster himself. But so that's yeah.
On the production design front, Kerry, we had a conversation about AI last year and its use for some of the things, particularly the brutalists. I think we had talked about. So that's a very controversial. That's them's fighting words. I think actually to accuse them of AI. So I'm curious if other folks
No,
have
I'm not accusing them of AI. No, 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 no. I'm not saying they used AI. I don't know. Somehow I think I expected something more than what I saw in particularly the bigger set pieces. I just maybe it's because I watched it at home on my TV instead of at the theater, but
The devil's advocate would be if you did an AI sampling of what one of his films looked like, you would be sampling a lot of the work of this designer.
absolutely. No, totally.
That's what AI does. That's the mystery. No matter what
Yeah.
element it is, whether it's a hand, whether it's a foot, whether it's somebody's hairstyle, it's all taken from somewhere and glued together.
Yeah. And I love the other work that she did. Nightmare Alley and Shape of Water I thought was beautiful, but yeah.
Could it be, I mean, possibly, it wasn't I love Guillermo, I'm a huge fan, especially because of all the design work. It wasn't my favorite film of his. I was a little disappointed walking out because of like the content of the film, but the look of the film still did it for me. So do
Hmm.
you think maybe you were going in thinking the movie might have been a little bit different, or do you think the production design was the issue for you?
I
Maybe.
do think production design was a bit of an issue for me. And I wish I could be a little more precise about where I felt it fell short, but I think I was maybe it's just I tend to get lost in grandeur anyway. The parts, the things that I really appreciate in this film were a lot of the hand props. I wish there was an Academy Award for propping, because I found a lot of the hand props that the characters used were wonderful and unique and things I'd never seen before, and that I found really interesting. But again, like the castle and the underground vault, I don't know. It didn't do it for me.
When we did our episode on props, Frankenstein was one of our hypothetical nominees for all the reasons you said, Gary, not just that. So, yeah, we agree that the props are noteworthy.
Mm.
Well, listen, we invite the disagreements as well. Hey, that makes for good podcasting and YouTubing. So don't hold back as we've done year to year. Last thoughts on Frankenstein or other additional thoughts, angles to take?
Um, no, I think as a set decorator, I think it's the type of movie that someone would really aspire to work on. It just looked like, and then again, watching and listening and reading all the different articles with the designer and the process with Guillermo and even the prop master and the set decorator and seeing all the work that was done, it just gives you a lot of respect for our craft.
I would have loved to have worked on that. That would have been amazing.
All right, the next film on our list is Hamnet. Production design, Fiona Crombie. Set decoration, Alice Felton.
I love this movie. I love the book. I was a huge fan of the book before it was turned into a movie. I thought it was beautiful and rich. Yeah, I love the production design of it. This is something we've talked about before, Regina, on and Skid on past podcasts, though, that when you do a period piece like this, it seems like you're kind of hemmed in quite a bit just by being true to the time. Uh, but nevertheless, I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. Um, and I would love to know how they did the Globe Theater. I don't know if they built that. I kind of doubt they shot there, but that was probably my favorite scene in the whole movie was when they were actually in the Globe and they were doing the play of Hamlet. And it just felt so, it was so visceral for me. I really felt like I was in that space and what it would have felt like to be there and seeing this play take place. So that was very impressive for me.
I love the
Yeah.
film and thought that particularly the interiors in the sense of scale was really right on, and it sort of put you in the place. The one thing that did bump me actually was the Globe Theater, and that just comes from having a theater background. It wasn't the Globe itself; it was just the painted backdrops, which of course weren't done at that time period. And
Uh,
so it kind of bumped me that they were there, and it reminds me of we're often in a position where a director says, "Well, I want to do something that because it ties it into the forest and the environment of where they of where the first part of the film takes place, or you know the world that she comes from." And there's a lot of times when somebody asks for a certain thing, and you don't feel it's right, and you make a little comment, and then you end up doing it anyway. So if I were doing the film, I would have been, but they didn't have backdrops. And
that's fascinating.
you end up in those situations where
Yeah.
I can think of any number of things I've worked on where there was something, particularly doing period films, when you say something's not true to period and then they say, yeah, I hear you, we're going to do it anyway. So
Yeah.
that's the one thing that bumped me. Yeah.
And it's interesting because I liked that the forest was there and that it did tie her into it. So when I saw that, I immediately made that connection.
Right.
Uh, but yeah, that's wow. That's really interesting that they didn't have that. Did so what was the background? Was it just a bare stage? And
It was mostly a bare stage and a lot of props and that just comes because I'm somebody who did like tons of Shakespeare in the Park when I was doing theater, so I knew the Shakespeare territory pretty well. And it was I mean, one thing is they performed in the daytime, so
mm,
you think of the spookiness of Hamlet and the ghost and whatnot, and it's all being done in the daytime. So
yeah,
it required more imagination on the part of the audience.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love the book. I loved the movie itself. I was so excited to, see it come to life on the screen. I think they did a really beautiful job. They did build the globe. Um, I love all the detail, especially like in Shakespeare's house, in the little apple, shed that they were in. It just, everything in the book just read, it transferred to the screen for me. Um, I think a lot of care was put into everything. The only thing that would bother me in the movie was that everything was a little bit too perfect and too like a photo shoot. But other than that, I thought it was absolutely gorgeous. It was shot beautifully, and yeah, it was that. And the street. I don't know if you knew that, but Shakespeare's family home, that whole little area was all built. Also, the home was built. That little town was built. So and there was a lot of builds on that film that you don't really notice. A lot of the forest greens people came in and put more greens and added
Wow.
more greens, and um, so it was really pretty. I mean, I think this year we have a lot of different categories that are being represented, so it's nice to see.
What's interesting is that I also read the book, also loved the book, and also felt that the film did a wonderful job of bringing the book to life, which is pretty unusual for three people who loved a book. Because usually it's like I love the book, I hated the movie, or I
Yeah,
love
for
the movie,
sure.
I never saw the book, read the book, so I love the movie. But the idea that we all read the book
Yeah.
and all think they did a great job is pretty unusual.
Absolutely. I think the screenwriter did an excellent job of extracting just the right amount because the book obviously had a lot more depth and breadth and detail. But I think the screenplay pulled out exactly what was needed, just enough to be true to the book and present it in this new medium.
It was such a gentle film. I mean, you look for big moments and for thrills and chills, I guess, in the movie sometimes, and it's very gentle and everything unfolded in a very natural, very relaxed kind of way. And you got the sense of the family sort of being in this environment and like he's off in the big city and they're like in this other world. I thought that was really wonderful.
Yeah.
Great film.
Third film on our list, Marty Supreme. Production design by Jack Fisk. Set decoration by Adam Willis. Regina, you want to start us off on this one?
I will start. I'm not going to lie. I didn't like the film itself. That doesn't mean I didn't like the production design. I think Jack is great at everything he does, and I just, the sperm in the beginning just brought me back to like a fifth grade health class, and then the Forever Young music in the 50s. It just really kind of took me out of the movie, and it just I don't know. It was just too much. And I love Timmy. I'm a huge fan. And I hope he gets his Oscar this year. But the movie itself, I just had to keep on fast forwarding. So, I did see all the Lower East Side. I thought the Lower East Side looked excellent. That's a really hard street to pull off. I did that, years ago. We filmed on that street. So that looked really beautiful. I thought all the paint textures in like the old tenements were really great. I think the scenic department, the graphics department did an unbelievable job. Props because that street, I mean, it's all signage, it's all like the street vendors, and I thought that was all beautifully done. Um, but I really can't say. I have to be honest. I can't say much about because I kept on fast forwarding. So like every 10 minutes, I would pick up a scene and then keep going. But maybe I'll watch it again because some people love the movie. I don't know, something about their movies I can't watch. Uncut Gems I watched and I think I had like agita for a week or something. It was you're like on, speed or something. I can't.
Uh,
His other movies I had to turn off. There's something about them. I maybe I'm too old or I don't get it.
Well,
But it was
it's always a
fantastic.
situation when there's where you don't care for the film as a whole, but that you really like the design. To me, the biggest problem was the character was just so unlikable to me. But it didn't mean that I didn't respect the detail of the film and things like the shoe store and the layering and a special shout out to the signage and the graphics because I always say when like if I'm working with Regina, we talk about certain things. And let's say this needs to sit back and behave itself. Meaning sometimes something jumps out at you too much, and sometimes it's like shoe store, and the signage doesn't sort of integrate itself into the whole picture that's being created. And it was very realistic and very layered and very real. And I think that that's very hard to do with a show that needs a lot of graphics and I would give a special shout out to that department.
Yeah, that's uh, a spot that I kind of miss because I'm not that involved with graphics other than applying them. So, but that's that's an interesting. I want to go back now and kind of pay closer attention to the graphics.
And people forget the level of detail. I mean, you need labels on all the shoe boxes, and you need labels on all the products, and it needs to be integrated into the look of the film and not jump at you. And that's what I really admired.
I
And
agree.
especially, like,
No,
I
go
mean,
ahead. Regina.
no, I was going to say, like, when you're dressing that street, like on Orchard Street, there's a lot of, the streets are narrow, but a lot of the facades are modern. They're not like they used to be. So you have to use the signage and the awnings and all of that to cover up any kind of, traces of modernity, or so you need all of the graphics, you need all of that, and just the layers on the street to
Layering,
cover
yeah.
up the layering.
Yeah.
It was so detailed and so nice, and I did love the shoe store. um so yeah, I mean, I have, like I said, a lot of respect for that. Just the movie itself,
Well,
I
having
didn't.
worked on things like having to do our drapery shop on The Irishman, you know how much
Oh,
goes into like one of these little shop interiors.
how long it takes. And I'm sure they didn't have enough time to dress those streets, because you're dressing that street with a lot of these stores still operating, so you don't have enough time. And Kerry, as far as like set dressing, you a lot of those storefronts, you can't mount the signs or the awnings to the fronts of these buildings. So that's like another detail. It's just really hard to pull off all of that,
Because they're historic. Yeah.
because they're historic, and yeah, it's just
I,
really
I
hard.
I thought the Lower East Side looked amazing. I really appreciated that. The shoe store was especially uh, just fascinating. And like you said, Bob, nothing really jumped out. Nothing really caught my eye. So instead, it was just the the design as a whole just really blended in beautifully. Yeah, really, I couldn't stand the character Marty. And like you, Regina, I find his movies, Safdie's movies, anxiety producing, and it takes a while for me to recover. It engenders a feeling that I don't enjoy. And so, but I am able to separate out my dislike for the character from the production design in this case, and I really appreciate all the detail and the seamlessness of it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a nomination for sure.
Yeah,
Different than
even some
everything.
of the smaller scenes, like the house where the guy was holed up in the with the dog, and they go to try and get the dog from. Oh, that was Vincent D'Onofrio, wasn't it? I think was the character who played the guy in the house who kept the dog, and that was that was a wonderful little set piece. The whole house and the porch, and when you peered in and saw all these, it almost looked like a hoarder in there. That was really good.
I'm already struck at how different the first three things we've discussed are between Frankenstein, this giant operatic thing,
Yeah.
and then Hamnet with this sort of gentle period piece, and then this frenetic, recreation of another period. They're so different. I mean,
1950s New York. Yeah.
yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the fourth film on our list, One Battle After Another. Production design by Florencia Martin. Set decoration by Anthony Carlino.
I love this movie. I loved everything about the movie. As a set decorator, I am so proud of Anthony and Florence for like getting the nomination for this. Normally, I think this type of movie would just be overlooked. Doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter how much work you put into it. For some reason, the Academy does not go for a normal, or like a comedy, whatever you want to call this type of movie. It would just be overlooked no matter how much work was put into it. Um, for me, I think that the level of detail in here was also great. I loved Bob's house in the redwoods and all. It just felt like he was living there forever. Everything just fit the character. It was such a character study. Um, the outhouse cut out into the redwood tree in the back, his leather couch. I mean, everything in that house I just loved, even though wasn't anything like, oh wow, it's like jaw dropping. It just everything fit. And then the dojo where that whole where it takes place from the perfume store up the steps and then all these different apartments that led into another, and they're all just, so character driven. Um, I don't know. I can't say enough great things about this film. loved everything. And like I said, so happy that a film like this gets recognized by the Academy.
And it avoided some common
Am I the only
pitfalls.
one that feels that way?
No, I mean, his house, for example, is a tricky one because it's very easy to get kitschy with it because and how you characterize the person would have this and you would have that, and it again it was very realistic, and it avoided that kind of kitschy thing that happened in a lot of movies that go for that would be tasked with creating that environment. It's like no lava lamps or anything. You know what I mean?
Macrame. I agree. This
Exactly.
is by far my most favorite movie out of the whole year. And I think it's because it seemed to be the most complete movie in terms of cinematography, production design, costuming, acting, directing, everything just clicked so well, so smoothly across all the departments. And as a result, they put out a very distinctive, singular movie that really just grabbed you from the opening frame and just pulled you along through the entire movie. And I loved every every scene seemed to be like, oh, where are we now? What's happening here? And there is an excitement with every new scene. Like it just felt fresh and exciting, and they were able to maintain that throughout the whole movie, and that's really impressive. I especially liked sort of the combination of the production design and the lighting. The lighting uses a lot of overhead. I'm sure it wasn't fluorescent. I guess it was LED now, but it kind of had a sort of a harsh, bright fluorescent feel to it that kind of added to the edge of just being on the edge. And yet without that sort of anxiety producing edginess that Marty Supreme had. So I'm not sure how you get one that's great and exciting and you get another one that makes you sick to your stomach. But that was sort of the difference between the two movies for me. Yeah, I love all the sets in this. I love the dojo, the whole long hallway back to where Benicio del Toro's house or apartment was, and then the different layers of that. And you pass through, and there'd be different rooms and people in each room, and he would stop and talk to each one. Uh, I noticed in the kitchen there is like a big gallon jug of frying oil sitting on the counter, which I thought was perfect because they're probably doing tortillas all the time or something. Yeah, it's just a great movie, great production design, great in every department.
I actually like this film a lot as well. Carrie, you may have nailed it. I like the frenetic energy of this and Marty Supreme, and maybe that's what attracted me to both these films, the way they kind of press through. But yeah, this is probably one of my favorite films of the year. I'm relieved to hear that it's met the production design standards for you guys as well.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Well, our fifth and final film is Sinners, production design by Hannah Beachler, set decoration by Monique Champagne.
Again, it's another totally different world. I always say that the first job of our profession is to tell people where we are. And I think setting the scene of where they are in time was achieved very well at the beginning of the movie. It's a strange thing because it's like two different films visually because there's sort of the town and the world in the first half, and then the rest of it's all in the juke joint. If I were going to make any criticism, and it's certainly been leveled at me on many occasions, is that the beginning looked very clean.
Mm-hmm.
The red clay roads were had very very clean crisp edges to them, and I felt that although the work was sound, it looked a little crisp and a little new to me. And I've been in the position of like feeling I overaged or underaged something on many occasions, and it's very hard to know where to go with it. And you know, and there's also always the question of, we think of things as looking old because they're old, but there's a difference of what the now looks like versus the historical framework that we see in photos. Um, but I thought it was a good job, but that one element sort of bumped me a bit.
Yeah, I agree. Particularly in the town, I found the stores and the sort of the brightness of the interiors of in the town sort of jarring. Um, to me, it was most real when you were in the sharecroppers shacks and the streets around there. Um,
Yeah, the interior of the character of Annie actually was very good with that.
Yeah.
yeah. For me, I found the production design kind of inconsistent through the movie. Like you said, seemed to be different, almost two different movies. But I found the juke joint a little sterile, not enough layers in there.
Mm.
Um, and so I wasn't sure if they were. I, I mean, it almost seemed like they were kind of going for an highly stylized or over stylized look, but I'm not sure that was the best choice. And I'm not even convinced that's what they were trying to do. So it didn't really work for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of the film, love the film, but I have to agree. In the very beginning, I thought everything was really clean, and I kept thinking about you, Bob. I was thinking about like you. I was thinking about like Santo, and I'm thinking like, oh no, they'd be like fingerprints and more dirt, and everything just looked really, really clean. And the town, the store, I mean, it looked beautiful. The set dressing was great, but everything just looked too new and too put together, and it really wasn't believable for me as part of like the set. And then when you do go to the like the dance joint at night, again, that seemed for, forgetting that barn and in like a day or two that they had to put it together, it did look a little sterile. It did look a little bit too, again, too clean or too neat. And but it didn't take me out of the story in any way. Like I knew what time period we were in. I thought it was shot beautifully. But I would have loved to seen a little bit more grit, a little bit more age for that.
But again, I feel personally like I've been there so many times, too much, too little, and I mean, we did the Gilded Age, and the first year, just time wise, it looked too new.
Mm.
If I had a nickel for every person who told me the season one looked too new, I'd be doing pretty well. And I've also been the thing where we were doing a set, and the thing, we need more dirt, it needs more this, and it's like script wise I knew that the building was supposed to have just opened like a week before, and it's like, well, it's not going to be that dirty, it's only a week old, and it's like I age it anyway. So it's a tricky thing, and I've wrestled with it myself many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everything was new at one point. So,
Right, and that's what we always forget. I mean, we make things look like because it was 75 years ago doesn't mean it should look like it's 75 years old. No,
exactly. It's
tough one.
It's an interesting thing though, and yet audiences always have they bring with them their preconceptions of what things look like 75 years ago or however long. So yeah, where do you yeah. I don't envy having to straddle that decision making.
It's a similar thing when a character's environment is supposed to be messy because my version of messy isn't other people's version of messy, and some it's difficult to find the level for these things.
Well, that's why I think it's so impressive when it does all come together so well, such as in One Battle After Another, um, where I just want to revisit that because we didn't see anything in there that was new or foreign to us, that was unfamiliar, and yet somehow it all was presented in a way that was very much of that film and of the um, I guess, the overall vibe of the film. So it was different. It was dynamic in that setting. But there was nothing there that was like, oh, that's so, I've never seen anything like that before. So I think that's one of the reasons why I find the production design of that movie so impressive, was that it was able to take the familiar and just tweak it just enough that it seemed new or different or exciting.
And it felt real.
Yeah, and it's so real.
It felt real.
Yeah, and yet different. And I think that was the what I was lacking in some of the other films, but particularly Sinners was I mean, I get it if you want to do a stylized choice, and the colors were beautiful in Sinners, and the contrast of the cotton to the red dirt roads were beautiful, but it somehow didn't seem to relate to the story that was being told. And I enjoyed the story. I really enjoyed seeing what, at least that interpretation of what life on a sharecropping farm was like back then. Uh, but yeah, I didn't find the production design actually lent anything to that part of the story.
Well, widening our lens beyond these 5 films, were there other 2025 efforts in production design that caught your eye? Shout outs.
For me.
Go ahead.
You first. We'll go in our
I forget the
choices.
name of the film, the Soderbergh film. Is it Black Bag?
Hmm.
Very, very handsome looking film. Very beautiful colors, really saturated greens, and it looked great and very slick from start to finish. And again, with what Regina said before, because it's contemporary, because it's, you know, offices and that sort of thing, it tends to get overlooked. But I thought that you know, Phil Messina did a particularly masterful job of that, along with the cinematography and just the whole. It had a real cohesive look to me. I thought it looked fantastic, and it's exactly the kind of film that usually gets overlooked from the design point of view.
Yeah, I enjoyed that film quite a bit.
I'll have to watch. For me, I think it was Train Dreams. I thought that was a really beautiful film and very well done. Again, there wasn't, you know, they could have used a little bit more age on certain things.
Mm.
And then I might get laughed out of the room here, but Song Sung Blue, I think, was a really good film. And I think that the sets, if you looked at all their sets like on a photo or like in a portfolio, you'd be like, ooh, what is that? But in the film, it works. Like it puts you in this place and a time. Did you see that, Bob?
I did, and it gets back to the thing of when something should be a little kitschy and when it's distracting and when it's right. You know, I
But I
mean,
felt like it was right. It was kitschy, but
the
so
characters are very kitschy. The idea, you know, the idea of, you know, of making your living, you know, paying tribute to somebody who was still around. It's just, and the characters, you know, I mean, I loved Kate Hudson's character, you know, but I
but
thought that,
her house, all of that,
yeah,
and
it
like
really
that little
worked.
fair, like I thought I was in, you know, Wisconsin or wherever they're from,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
it just felt real.
yeah,
Um,
I
the
agree.
bathroom, I mean, it was so bad that it was so good.
Yeah.
Just I loved everything about that film.
Well, that goes
But
Regina,
back to
we
the
did give,
how messy
uh,
to make things, you know.
I'll just put a note in here that we also, Song Sung Blue got a Dark Horse nomination in our props category as well. So
oh,
those
deserved
guys
it.
recognize that for all the reasons you're saying, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, some overlap there.
Yep. Great film, and I thought it looked great. For everyone involved. I mean, even the acting, I think it was just like a really overlooked film.
Yeah.
Well, then on that note, we'll call it a wrap. Great having you guys here. Really, really enjoyed this coming together. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Skid.
Okay, listeners, as I said at the start, this is episode 6 of our Oscar series. You can expect a new episode every 4 days, right up until the ceremony on March 15th. Subscribe now if you haven't already so you catch them all. If you've been watching us on YouTube, I'd really like to hear your thoughts. My email address is skid@belowtheline1word.biz. That's B-I-Z. And I'm always grateful for your feedback. Closing credits, thanks to Curtis Five for our music and John Wan for our logo. The logo is available on t-shirts, mugs, and stickers at redbubble.com. To all of our listeners and YouTubers, I appreciate you. Please rate us wherever you get your podcasts and tell your friends. Thanks again from Below the Line. And thanks again to all of you.
All right,
Bye.
good stuff, guys. Take care.